Hi, coming up next, we have Jean Cooper, who has presented in a prior podcast the story of a woman who was accused of killing her 10-month-old child. Jean has a strong background working on criminal defense cases as a legal nurse consultant and shared in this podcast, part two, some of the more detailed information about how a legal nurse consultant can be effective in helping on criminal defense cases. Jean, I know that our viewer is going to want to know what are some of the key points that you went through in this podcast?
Thank you, Pat. We discussed the biases that impact the case from the very beginning, starting with law enforcement and the emergency room providers, doctors and nurses and social workers, and nurses and doctors in acute care with a critical care setting. And also, if the child dies, the medical examiner's office. All along the way, there are biases that impact the outcome of the case. And we also talked about the conditions that present initially maybe looking like child abuse, but what other conditions could present that way. Someone who was very sick with pneumonia and stops breathing could suddenly stop breathing. Doesn't mean that they have head trauma or something else. It was just a lack of oxygen. Someone who has pneumonia may develop sepsis from the overwhelming infection that just increased, and that would cause them to stop breathing. They could also have bruising all over their bodies that may be due to medical interventions, starting with the emergency medical system. Even just touching her, if she is so ill, might cause bruises. Or think about how brutal CPR is, how difficult starting an IV on a child, so perhaps they're putting access into the bone. Well, that's pretty brutal and can cause bruising. Just holding a mask on someone's face to breathe for them with the valve mask, bagging them, excuse me. All of that stuff all of those interventions cause bruising that someone down the line, a healthcare provider down the line, could perhaps suppose that it was from intentional trauma as opposed to something else. So the role of a legal nurse consultant is to review medical records from start to finish and even before the beginning, to determine if there is an alternative cause for what the healthcare team is finding as abuse. Not all retinal hemorrhages are caused by intentional shaking of a child or non-accidental head trauma. So we support the legal team all the way through with looking at issues, defining, explaining, and analyzing issues with the legal team and their medical experts.
Well, you can see that Jean covered a lot of information in her podcast, and you want to be sure to listen to this podcast to get more insight on how a legal nurse consultant's knowledge can be so essential for the legal team. Be sure to get Jean Cooper's podcast, and I will see you on the next show.
Thank you.